Today, I'm going to be reading Chapter 32 of Ground Zero by Alan Grass. Rashmina woke to the sound of singing. We are Afghan people. We are Afghans of the mountains. It was pitch black and Rashmina couldn't see, but she would know the sound of her grandmother's voice anywhere. The song she was singing, Mamardeen Afghan, was one of Anna's favorites. Ears ringing, dust clogging her mouth and throat. Rashmina crawled towards the sound. She found her grandmother lying on the ground, half covered by the door of an old Soviet truck. I figured if I kept singing, someone would find me, her grandmother rasped. Rashmina pulled the door off her. Are you all right, Anna? I may have broken a bone or two, she admitted. Just let me lie here, Minnie Jan. Rashmina's heart skipped a beat. Her grandmother was stubborn as a donkey when it came to doctors. She claimed she'd never been sick in her life, but Rashmina knew she just didn't like to make trouble. She might be lying there without a leg right now and not even admit it. Rashmina patted her grandmother's body just to be sure. Stop fussing, Anna groused. Rashmina heard whining and crying in the darkness. Her brother, Zahar, was alive. Hush, Rashmina's mother said, her voice heavy. Anna, keep singing. More, Rashmina cried. She wanted to go to her mother, but where was she? Rashmina's grandmother sang Mamarade Afghan again, and Rashmina heard the sound of people crawling to them through the scrapes of an old Soviet metal that had been scattered by the blast. First came her mother and Zahir, then Marzia, as Rashmina hugged her family. More people found them, an old couple from the next door, a young girl from farther up the steps, Taz, too. For a while, everyone was too dazed to move or speak. Anna finished her song, and things grew deathly, oppressively quiet. They couldn't even feel vibrations anymore from the fighting up above. Is everyone all right? Taz asked at last. What's happened? I still can't see. I know, Rashmina told him. We can't see either. It's completely dark. Wait, she remembered. The flashlight. Thank God she had put it in her pocket before the explosion. She put her hand in her pocket, but when she touched the flashlight, a sharp pain shot through her palm, and she grasped. What is it, Manujan? Moore asked in Pasatu. What's wrong? Taz asked in English. Rashmina pulled the flashlight out of her other hand and clicked it on. Everyone squinted again in the bright light, even Taz a little. Hey, I can see that, Taz said. Not great, but I can see a dull glow. I think my eyes are getting better. Rashmina shined the light on her hand. There was a deep gash across her right palm. It must have happened when the part of the ceiling caved in. I have a bad cut on my hand, Rashmina told her mother, then translated for Taz. Rashmina's mother started to tear a piece of cloth from her tunic for a bandage. Wait, I have some curlicks, Taz told them. Rashmina didn't know that word, but it was some kind of bandage Taz carried in his pockets. He told her how to use it, and she pushed the gauze into her cut with a hiss of pain. Sorry, he told her, this stuff is good, but if the cut's deep, you may still end up with a scar. See, I've got one too. He held out his hand to show her. He had a long, dirty scar in almost the same place on his palm. It still aches every now and then when it's cold and gloomy outside, he told her, but most of the time. Taz paused, as though what he was saying brought back a painful memory for him. But most of the time, you just forget it's there, he finished. Some of the others in the cave had injuries too. Rashmina did what she could to help them with the bandages Taz had given her. Where are all the other people? Rashmina's mother asked. There were a lot more of us before. Rashmina turned the flashlight toward the front of the cave, where there had once been a large open cavern filled with old Soviet equipment. Now there was just a pile of rocks. The whole front half of the ceiling had caved in. Rashmina explored the rock fall, looking for a way through. She stopped when she saw the legs of some poor soul sticking out from under a boulder. The rest of the woman's body crushed in the cave-in. Crushed like all the other people who had been in the cave, with them in the cave. And there was no way, though, through. The fallen rocks covered everything. I've killed us, Rashmina thought. Everyone we know and love. Moore was right. I brought death to our village when I brought Taz into our home. She cried silently. She had chosen what was right over what what was easy. She had dared to be someone new, someone better, to carve a path for herself. And look at where it had gotten her, buried with her family in a grave of her own making. Rashmina quickly swept the light away, so no one else could see the body. Is it bad? Taz asked. Rashmina felt the anger of 100 souls well up inside her, and she turned on the American soldier. Is it bad? She said. Yes, it's bad. There was only one entrance to this cave, and now we're trapped. We're trapped, and all of those other people who were in here with us are dead. Rashmina picked up a rock from the ground and hurled it at Taz. He still couldn't see well, but he heard a rock strike the wall behind him, and he flinched. Rashmina picked up another stone and threw it at him, hitting him in the arm. Hey, what? He started to ask. We're trapped and they're dead, and it's all your fault, Rashmina yelled at him. It wasn't her fault for dreaming. It was his fault for being there. But I didn't. You and all the other Americans, Rashmina told him. She threw another rock that clanged off an old Soviet hubcap. Why don't you get out of Afghanistan? All you're doing is killing us. We're trying to fix things, Taz argued. Things you broke to begin with, Rashmina told him. We're building wells, roads, schools, Taz said. Probably the school you go to. You killed my sister, Rashmina cried. Taz looked horrified. I what? How? When? Not you, your country, Rashmina said. She was crying now. Big wet tears fed from the horrible things that had happened 2 years ago and today. You bombed my sister. She died. So many of our friends did too. I'm sorry, Taz told her. Really, I am. But we're fighting a war against the Taliban. Sometimes innocent people get hurt. We're trying to help. Rashmina burned inside. Was this anger what had Bassoon felt all the time? The fury that had pushed him to join the Taliban? You can help us by leaving, Rashmina told Taz. My village was never bombed until the Americans came. We have to be here. We have to be here, Taz argued. Do you know the first thing that will happen if the U.S. leaves Afghanistan? There will be another civil war, and the Taliban will take over again. You're too young to remember, Rashmina, but they did awful things. They are bad, bad people. I know all about the Taliban, Rashmina told him. I know how awful they are. Well, if we leave, you'll be right back where you started before we got here. But your drones kill as many of us as them, Rashmina said. She held up her injured hand. You bandage our wounds and want us to say thank you. But you're the reason we were hurt. Taz was quiet for a moment. If we can just beat the Taliban, get Afghanistan back on its feet, give you a chance to grow. Rashmina remembered the cedar cone in the graveyard and the graves from the precious wars. All those invaders who had swept to victory with their superior weapons, only to be driven out by Afghan fighters. You say you have been here for 10 years, Rashmina said. Your country has been here nearly twice that long, and you still haven't won. You never will. Nobody can rule Afghanistan, not even Afghans. So I ask you again, why are you still here? Taz looked away without answering. Zahir, come away from there, Rashmina's mother called. Rashmina shined the flashlight in her little brother's direction. All she could see was his legs, sticking out from under a rock. For a horrible moment, she thought Zahir had been buried like the lady at the front of the cave. But Zahir just had his head in a hole in the wall, a crack that had opened up during the cave-in. Marzia and their mother were able to drag the curious 2-year-old out by his ankles. Rashmina examined the hole with her flashlight, and she gasped. What is it? What's under there? Asked a woman standing nearby. Rashmina felt a tiny spark of hope rekindle in her chest, and she turned excitedly to the others. It might be another way out. That's all for today. Thank you for listening.